what I want to do is take a little bit of what Liz said about my background. I got involved with a friend of mine, Steve Diorio, who's very much, if you know Steve Diorio, founder of the Revenue Enablement Institute, he's an academic, he's an analyst, he's a researcher. And then, as Liz kind of hinted to, I was a complete opposite. I'm a guy who, at like 23 years old, went out to Kazakhstan to open Oracle's office in Kazakhstan and learned fluent Russian while I was there. And then decided, having never been to Asia, 6 years later when there was a crisis in Russia, I'm going to go to Singapore and I'm going to run marketing over in Asia. And then cross the Mississippi for the first time, having lived out in Asia, to come back to the US and go to Oracle's headquarters. So what Steve and I did over the last year and a half is we interviewed over 100 CXOs. We were looking for people who were in charge of growth in their organizations. That was the one preset that we had. We were looking for people who were in charge of growth. The reality is, in every company, you have no idea who's in charge of growth. And out of those interviews, and then over 1,000 surveys, we came up with, gosh, this may sound so interesting, but revenue expansion is the #1 driver of value in a company, both shareholder value and firm kind of valuation. It's actually more valuable than everything else. Well, how do people actually try and grow? And what are the biggest challenges? And what we found was the #1 challenge, and you all were just talking about it, was fragmentation. But the reality is there are parallel initiatives going on constantly at all kinds of operations. Inevitably, you're going to have an awful lot of friction. And you're going to have an awful lot of things that are preventing you from actually achieving that basic goal of revenue growth. All of us have these systems and these processes that we've created around all the functions in our business except for the revenue functions, right? Except for sales, except for marketing. Yes, we have systems, we have processes, but I wrote 10 years ago about the CMO identity crisis, right? What is a CMO? A CMO today is completely different than what a CMO was 10 years ago in most cases. And so Steve and I said, all right, we're going to be ambitious here. We're going to try and create a system for a system-based approach to growing your revenue, to creating sustainable, scalable revenue. You're creating alignment within the organization. You're actually taking the assets that you have and monetizing them and then igniting growth. That's kind of the simple formula. And revenue operations, for some people, is I take my marketing operations team and I scratch out the word marketing and I put in revenue, and now all of a sudden I'm more valuable to the organization. Or I take sales operations, scratch it out, white out, for those of us who are old enough to remember whiteout, and I call it revenue operations, and all of a sudden I'm more valuable, or all of a sudden I can now take over marketing operations as well because I'm the boss of operations. And what we saw revenue operations was a trend where it was trying to pull together all the pieces of the business behind growth, right? Get that sort of alignment in different ways. And as I said, the way you crush the silos is the team that connects the most dots wins. Where there's actually a system in the business that kind of self-regulates a little bit and drives the business forward to continue this repeatability of growth, instead of, I have a campaign, let's throw some money at an advertising campaign. Let's hire some more sellers. Let's continually just throw money at trying to grow. And this year we're going to grow completely differently than the way we did last year. We said you need to connect the processes and the data, and that's the revenue operating system. However, how are people going to really use it? Like, what are we going to tell them to do? What is a day one kind of thing? So we came up with a concept called smart actions. And smart actions are essentially ways where you look around your revenue operating system. After you figured out what your governance model is, what you want it to be, what it is you look at the revenue operating system kind of map, and you go, okay, where are the things that we think will have the most impact on us today? Meaning, how do you string it together? Because the way to mass transformation, as I said, is not kind of a big project with lots of workflows. It's taking lots of discrete actions that connect together and chain up in what we call kind of a carbon chain that then create the real overall impact to the business.